In Colorado. Welcome back, Congresswoman. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Greg.
It happened not too far from your district. Our condolences, obviously. What can you tell us? What do you know that we don't know at this point?
Well, a lot is still unsaid. I know that Colorado is hurting. Colorado certainly mourns the loss of the 10 lives, and including Officer Talley, who lost his life in the line of duty there in Boulder, Colorado. I can tell you that gun laws don't work. It's really unfortunate, but we need good people to be able to neutralize threats and defend themselves and the people around them to protect them. And it's interesting that you mentioned the shooter, Ahmad Alissa, and we're hearing, he couldn't stand President Trump, and he saw racism everywhere, and he claimed to believe in Islam, but there's still a lot about him that we don't know. We don't know all of his motives. We're hearing about some mental stability that was in question, that he, obviously he was not mentally stable, but there was a history of this. But here in Colorado, we have some of the strictest gun laws, Greg, and they, of course, include universal background checks. They include high-capacity magazine bans, and then we have the extreme risk protection orders, red flag laws that are supposed to prevent guys like Ahmad Alissa from doing what he did.
Yeah.
We even have mental adjudication that prohibits firearm ownership. And none of this stopped the tragedy that happened yesterday.
You mentioned the hatred of Trump, and it seems to be well established. Let's go through some of his Facebook posts. He also really liked the Washington Post, by the way, but here he is. Trump's such a DIC, you know the word, talking about the New Zealand mass shooting a couple of years ago. They were the victims of the entire Islamophobia industry that vilified him. This is his worldview, that Islam is under attack. I think we have one more, saying that Donald Trump won because of racism. But your colleagues are not going to, Democrats on Capitol Hill are already talking about, Joe Biden is talking about a ban on assault weapons. We heard that. He's talked about it before. I want to play for you what Senator Ted Cruz is saying about the moves to get more laws on the books.
It is time for us to do something. And every time there's a shooting, we play this ridiculous theater where this committee gets together and proposes a bunch of laws that would do nothing to stop these murders.
But they do try, don't they, with new laws? And I want to show you another graphic that we have, Congresswoman. So many of the shootings, Joe Biden is talking about an assault weapons ban, involve pistols, sometimes only pistols. Virginia Tech, one of the worst shootings we've ever had, carried out with 2 pistols, a pistol and a revolver at Fort Hood. You can still have a mass shooting without an assault weapons ban. So what do you think of what they're trying to do yet again? It seems like we've seen this movie before, Congresswoman.
Yes, and it's very unfortunate that their first knee-jerk reaction is to limit our ability to defend ourselves. There are bad people who do bad things, and we need a way to protect ourselves because we don't know when they're going to act on the things that are rolling through their minds and consuming their thoughts. And so we need a way to protect ourselves. That's why I carry. I've been asked many times, why do you carry in a grocery store? Well, unfortunately, you don't know if there's going to be something like this that happens in a grocery store. But at the end of the day, when violence occurs, my first reaction will never be to try to disarm and restrict the American people. 96% of mass public shootings occur in gun-free zones. And this King Soopers in Boulder, Colorado, was very much a soft target where open carry was banned. And it's very discouraged in Boulder, of all places in Colorado, to carry a firearm. And it's looked down upon. And so a lot of law-abiding gun owners don't want to patronize businesses like that, and they'll go on down the road and shop elsewhere. We hear from groups like Everytown and Moms Demand Action who don't want our thoughts and prayers, which is really unfortunate because, first of all, prayer works, and I believe in a God that hears us and a God who cares for us. But what they don't want really is to empower people to stop things like this, to give us the tools to stop things like this, and that's guns. And that would absolutely neutralize a threat like this, and we would have seen less casualties. But we need to stop creating target-rich environments for evil people to attack.
Congresswoman, you turn to the Second Amendment, you turn to God. In times of crisis, some people, believe it or not, turn to Vice President Kamala Harris's niece. I want to put this tweet up from her. There she is with her aunt. The Atlanta shooting was not even a week ago. Violent white men are the greatest terrorist threat to our country. Now, when they told her the news that the person accused is originally from Syria, I deleted a previous post about the suspect in the Boulder shooting. I made an assumption based on his being taken into custody alive and the fact that the majority of mass shootings in the U.S. are carried out by white men. Yes, I've heard this before, by the way. Some resentment, that the white suspect last week was taken alive, not dead. Pretty bizarre dialogue on the far left.
That's all we hear is bizarre dialogue, and it's really unfortunate to even politicize this, to play these race games and these identity politics. Just because Ahmad Alisa believed in Islam doesn't mean that I'm going to sit here and say that all Muslims are somehow responsible for his evil actions. I'm tired of these identity politics games. I'm tired of politicians thinking that they know how to run our lives better than we do. And here in Colorado, we've been through this defund the police movement. We aren't slow to forget what happened last year with the riots and the looting here in Colorado, and then even qualified immunity being taken away from our law enforcement officers. And then they also want to strip our Second Amendment rights. They don't want the police protecting us. They don't want us to protect ourselves. And somehow they think that big government is here to save the day. They're not. They don't know better than us. And, in all of these laws that they're passing, it would not have stopped the tragedy that happened yesterday. And I'm tired of these elected officials playing politics, political games, political theater with our lives.
Congresswoman, you are where you need to be in Congress. I'm glad you're there. Lauren Boebert, to be continued. Many, many thanks. Republican of